Hello, all. Welcome to today's Slack community event of the Pimpri-Chinchwad Chapter. I am the community chapter lead, Drishti Jain, and I'm really happy to be spending this Saturday afternoon with all of you. And we have some interesting topic that we're going to tackle on today. And we have a great speaker as well who is tackling this problem through his product. So let's dive right into what the event is about, what the chapter is about. A lot of you seem to be new to the chapter and are curious to what exactly it is. So, and maybe even some of you got to know about Slack and the Slack community after the recent collab, after how Salesforce acquired Slack. So, welcome all. And this is a very open space. Along the way, be it in my part of the presentation or our speaker's presentation, if you have any questions, do put it in the chat and I'll be able to raise it to the speaker. We can have a good collaborative discussion as well. So yeah, these cute emoticons, these cute icons that you see, that is what represents what Slack community is. And being the chapter leader, I welcome you all. We are a community. I started this community about a year ago, last year, and right then and there, the pandemic hit us. But the community has been very supportive. We have been collaborating a lot in the virtual world itself. So excited to have all of you with me here today. To tell you a little about myself, so I'm a computer engineer by background. Apart from being very active in the community, I'm a software engineer. I'm a tech geek. I'm also a social entrepreneur. So I started an NGO back in 2017. Actually, it was started way before that, but before I could register it, that registration and everything happened in 2017. We've been impacting 11 cities across India, and I work in three sectors, that is education, environment, and healthcare. And I also believe a lot into giving back to the community, being a mentor to a lot of engineering students who want to grow ahead in their career but do not know how do they do that, how do they take those steps to reach and meet the goals that they want to. And I'm also an international tech speaker, so I travel across the globe. That was indeed just right before the pandemic. I was able to physically travel, and right now it's all virtual. So I speak at a number of conferences, at various events. Um, I have like spoken about JavaScript, Python, machine learning, and more things. So you can follow me on Twitter, and you'll see my tech journey, my knowledge sharing there as well. Also, I've been sharing a lot of YouTube channel, so that is where you can find me. And yes, it is one important part, especially if you're new to community, not just Slack, but in general the tech community, and you're looking to get more involved. The best place to interact and show the world what you're doing is Twitter. So go ahead, let the world know you are here today attending the Slack Pimpri-Chinchwad Chapter community event, and do tag me, and I'll be able to retweet it. Also, so this is the Slack community Pimpri-Chinchwad chapter. Till a few months ago, the community overall worldwide was called Slack Platform Community, and recently it has been renamed to Slack Community. So this is like a forum, a community for everybody, be it whether you're a Slack admin or you're a Slack. Uh, yeah, I just saw that somebody couldn't hear me. Am I audible to all of you? Can you just confirm that once in the chat if I'm audible? Okay, great. A lot of people are telling me, yes, I'm audible. So this community is all about learning, sharing about Slack, whether you are a Slack admin or a Slack developer, whether you work with Slack APIs or you are an end user of Slack, you use it in your work every day. That is the way you collaborate with your teammates and you're able to achieve and deliver the results that you do. So this is a welcoming place for everybody. You are somebody who uses Slack and is looking to move and incorporating Slack for anything and everything, so you have come to the right place. Our chapter was as of a couple of days ago. We are 200 strong, starting from zero, And it has been a wonderful trajectory of seeing how a chapter grew 117 strong members that we are today. So it is really wonderful. The organizer, I feel very happy and proud of the wonderful community that is there. And if you just registered for the event and you haven't joined the community, go ahead and click on join. Also, I'll be space, so wherein you can join the chapter channel as well, and we can keep the conversation going. So you can head ahead to and search for Slack. Right now, this has been renamed to Slack Community. So SC stands for Slack Community and Pimpri-Chinchwad. If not, then let me know via DM on Twitter or through the chat, and I'll be able to send an invite to your email ID. So yeah, this is really wonderful. I'm very happy that all of you are here and all excited for the event, the community, everything. Three things that I believe in for the community is that we share knowledge, we learn from each other, and we grow together as a community. So I look forward to having everybody's collaborative support, share knowledge, gain knowledge. Knowledge is all about sharing, and that is how we learn. So today's event is all about driving engagement and improving productivity. And how do we achieve that, especially on Slack? And how does Slack as a tool, as a software, help us do that? This is a topic that I've seen not just because we shifted to the remote working across the world, but also when things were in person. Even at that time, it used to be difficult to have the productivity of the team to be high and to drive the engagement so that everybody is able to understand and go ahead with what is the overall goal that we're trying to achieve and how do we exactly achieve it. So productivity is something I believe that a lot of us think, what exactly do we mean by productivity? If I'm able to complete my Jira tickets on time or before time, is that considered productivity? Or if I'm able to collaborate and help out my teammates with issues that they're facing, so how do I think about productivity? Right, that is a question. So I would like to put in productivity in a very simple way. Productivity is when you are able to optimally use your time. Your time efficiently such that you are able to complete the task that you have in hand, as well as going ahead and doing more with the remaining time you have. Instead of just stretching a task to take like 2 hours, which can actually be done in 1 hour if you're focused at that time, that is what I believe productivity is. And that is what helps us achieve a ton of more things. So that is my take on productivity. Also, often at times we think, okay, this is great to know, and I know how I will be able to do it during my workday, but how do I also encourage other people in my team? I'm a team manager, I'm a team lead. How do I ensure that not just it is not just me who's productive, but also any and everybody around me is also productive? So how do I do that? How do I drive that engagement? Because asking a person to do something will only be true once that person, whether he or she is actually doing it from their selves, they have a self motivation in them to do that thing, only then will they do that particular task. So the very first thing is to have a focus. So focusing on the key thing. Also, along with focusing on a particular thing, it is important to keep on shifting the focus on various other things, because uh, just focusing on one kind of work will make it non-productive, because you or the other person is just doing one kind of work. It becomes monotonous sometimes. So switching the things a little bit, switching the focus, there's a very thin line and very important one in understanding of switching focus a lot and actually focusing on one thing. So maintaining that balance when a particular thing's more focus is focused upon, and when it needs switching, we are able to do that. The other is collaboration. So just you doing one thing, but you're not able to explain your fellow teammate as to how did you do it, what was your approach to solving a problem, what was the bug, how did you solve it. If you are not able to collaborate, then you will not be able to drive the engagement or be productive. So it is very important that collaboration is a key factor whenever you're working, whenever you're trying to do anything. At that time, having collaboration is the key thing. The third key factor for driving engagement and remaining productive is to be motivated. Now, motivation can come in many ways. Sometimes we are motivated by the awards that are there, or by the recognition that we receive within our organization, or even if we are doing something at home. See, if you are somebody who loves to get their hands dirty in creating something out of wood, and if you're building a bird house to keep in your balcony, at that time, that itself is something that you're being productive in. And what motivates you is that you'll be able to create a cool place for birds to come out, hang in your balcony. So motivation can come in a number of ways. So it is very important that you keep these three things in mind, that is focus, collaboration, and motivation, in order to achieve the optimal results that you wish for yourself. So now continuing today's event with our guest speaker. So we have Mayank. He is the co-founder of Poppins, and they also recently launched Poppins on Product Hunt. So you can check that out there as well. And I'll invite Mayank. Yes. Um, yeah, yeah. Hi, Mayank. You're on mute. Yeah,
Hi.
great. Yeah. So hi, Mayank. I'll reintroduce you. So Mayank is the co-founder of Poppins, and this is an interesting story, I must say. And Mayank will be sharing that with us today as well. And they recently launched on Product Hunt as well. Poppins has been gaining a lot of traction because of the users, and actually, it's the users who's driving it,
Yeah,
and they are able to enhance the productivity. So Mayank, welcome to the Slack Pimpri-Chinchwad Chapter Slack community event today.
thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, great. So why don't you tell everybody a little about yourself, what Poppins is? Yeah,
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me and doing this event because this is the first event we're doing with Slack community in India. Earlier, we had similar community events in the US and one with the London community. Really excited to be in the homeland and especially from the heart of India, Madhya Pradesh. Thank you. Um, I'm Mayank. I've recently graduated from NID, which is National Institute of Design and Product Design. I met my co-founder in a very odd way. It was the peak of COVID-19, and I was looking for a mentor. And I have always been interested in community and stress-related problem areas. And previously, I did my academic research in the same background as well. And Manjunath, my co-founder, he is from IISc Bangalore, and he was heading data science at one of the premier VC firms in the Bay Area, San Francisco. And we met online, and it was never about building something, but it was about finding same interest and passion in the same problem, but through a different lens and experience. So Manjunath had previously built problems which professionals were facing online, like productivity and stress, like OKR startups and others. And I had done academic research, so there were two different sides from for the same problem. So that was very interesting. The second thing which was interesting was our complementary skill sets. So I come from a product design background, and he comes from a software engineering background. So that was interesting. That meant that we can build something and try with our users, right? So long story short, um, we have been avidly using Slack. We are a power users of Slack, and we love Slack actually,
that's
right?
great.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, if you look at the other platforms, we have tried a bunch of platforms. We were primarily using WhatsApp in the beginning, but we had to shift because Slack offered a lot of things, uh, especially the channels, right? And the other good thing about Slack is you can talk to your users as well, right? Directly on Slack. So Slack Connect is something which is very good for that, right? And the platform, the ecosystem of apps, you can have any kind of tool which you want to add on, right? Which is not possible on WhatsApp or other tools. So that was one of the reasons we used Slack. But however, we were facing certain challenges, right? Because any platform which is so big and popular comes with their own challenges, right?
Yeah.
They can't address all the problems. And because of COVID, because this was unseen and unheard of, the scale of
Mm-hmm.
problem, right? Everybody overnight jumped into online communication. So that was a problem even Slack didn't thought of, right? Nobody thought of. So me and my co-founder were communicating actively on Slack. So even though we were only two people, we had like 500 plus messages daily on Slack, right? Which was
Yeah.
a struggle to go through, right? Every day, and it wasted a lot of time on both sides. So every time we had to do something, we had to set up another meeting, right? Which would, because updating async communication was like going for a toss. So that's where this problem became like, it was like we had to do something because it was getting unmanageable, right? So we tried different solutions. We looked at many solutions which Slack itself offered, right? Like bookmarking, pinning, and reminders, a bunch of these
Mm-hmm.
things, right? Which are inbuilt on Slack, but it didn't help us in our use case. Then we tried other tools, third party tools like ticketing tools and other PM tools, right? Like Notion, Jira, Google Docs, you name it. We tried all kind of tools, right? But the problem with these tools were that every time you had to do something, you have to go out of Slack, right? So
Mm-hmm.
which is a very big problem, because recently we looked at a third party research which says that on average people are using 11 tools. Every professional is using 11 tools for their work, and this is one of the main reasons why their productivity is going on a loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because every time you're switching 11 different contexts, right? And research has proven that every time you switch from one context to another, you are wasting around half an hour of time, 25 to 30 minutes, to readjust your brain to do that work, right? And this is happening all day long, right? You're sending an email, and then you're jumping into Slack, and then you're jumping into your ticketing tool, Asana, Jira, Trello, whatever that may be, and then you're coming back and forth, right? So if you look at it, it is like around 40% of the time of the entire working day goes waste, right? And Slack itself has shown their stats, which says that people, like around half an hour time, 1.5 hours, they are very active on Slack, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they remain active for around 8 to 9 hours, so essentially the entire day, working day, right? Which uh, which if you look at it, if you can save at least an hour of their time, will bump their productivity significantly, right? If not 40%, it is it is significant amount, right? Which you were also mentioning earlier, that they can focus on other important things, right? Other than just readjusting to the current app or ecosystem, right? So so yeah, this was the problem. So one day we were having a schedule, we were having a chat, and we thought of, let's do something for it. And we decided to build an internal tool, because Slack allowed us to do that, right? So you can build your own internal tools on Slack. And that was very quick. It was very impromptu decision, and just to help ourselves, we didn't had any second thought that it will go out it, because it was a private tool, right? Many
Yeah, yeah.
companies build their internal workflows on Slack. We also built one tool which was a very simple digest. So the idea was to bring the physical whiteboard or notice board which you have in
Mm-hmm.
your offices or schools, right? into the digital space directly on Slack, right? So the idea was to avoid going out of Slack at any cost, right? So when we built this, all of a sudden what happened was we saved o- anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour of a time, which was a huge deal for us, right? Because we, in a startup world, if you can save a minute, time is your biggest resource, right? So
Yeah.
that was a very, very, very good thing for us, and we were happy with it. But we were still focusing on our original product, which we were building for employees, right? So this became our internal tool. But what happened one day was we were talking to our advisor, right? And he mentors other people as well, other startups. And while sharing our screen, he noticed, because he is a power user of Slack too. So he noticed this strange pop up digest. And he was curious, what is that thing? So we neglected, okay, this is nothing. We built this tool for our use. So he said, oh no, this looks very good. This is very helpful. Tell me about it. So once we described it, he said, "This is one of the best ideas you guys have ever pitched." So that was one of the early thumbs up we got, that this is something useful not just for us but for others as well. And what he did was he spread the word to other people, companies he advises. Within less than a week, we had like 5 founders who were using Poppins. And primarily it was founder focused because we ourselves were in that user group, right?
Yeah.
So we understood their problems much better, because the problem with other tools was they were very narrowed down to specific work. Like developers have their specific tools, GitHub, Jira, Trello, right? Designers have their own specific tools like Figma and Miro, right? And everybody else has their specific tools. Salesforce is for sales, right? But founders were in this unique position where they had to manage multiple things, right? Especially in the early days, and there were no specific tools for them. So they were doing a lot of back and forth. They were doing emails, they were doing Slack, they were doing all the ticketing tools, and it wasted a lot of time, right? So this was the solution which helped founders to like take control of their time, right? So all our early users, like within 1 to 2 weeks, we had like 20 founders who were using this, because the best thing they found was they could get a bird's eye view of everything that was happening within their company, right? So imagine there are 500 plus messages which are coming on your Slack, right? And as a founder, you can't go through all 500 messages, right? It
Yeah.
becomes impossible. So how do you choose the top 10 or 20 messages which are very, very important for you, right? Without going through all the 500 messages. That was very crucial for founders, right? So earlier they didn't had a solution for that. So they manually did that. And to manually do that, they wasted an hour of their time, right? And this is where Poppins fits in. Poppins helps you capture the most important items on Slack. It could be anywhere on Slack, be it a team channel, right? Because most teams work in a channel. It could be in the entire workspace, right? So let's say the Slack community, MP community is a workspace, right?
Yeah.
And anywhere you are tagging Poppins or mentioning, you so you are capturing that as a most important message. So you don't have to go anywhere to search messages. You can come directly to Poppins and look at these 5 or 10 messages, right? Or it could be even bigger. It could be 10 different workspaces, because we identified that founders were doing a lot of networking, right? So they were part of multiple workspaces. And this is where things got a bit more complicated, right? Because as an employee, you're not doing these kind of things regularly, but as a founder, you have to do this, right? So they could access all these important messages from all the different workspaces within Poppins without switching context, right? So that was one of our sweet spots. That was one of the reasons why people started loving Poppins, right? Until date, we haven't spent $0 or 0 rupees on any customer acquisition, and we have like hundreds and hundreds of teams across the
That's
globe.
really great because
Yeah,
that is, I believe, one of the major like places where the expense of a company goes
right,
into is the customer acquisition cost, be it like through Instagram
right.
marketing, Facebook marketing, or like anyways. It's really great
Very
to
true.
know that.
Yeah. So what happened was founders started using it, right? They liked it, and founders have a very strong community, right? And this was a very big pain point which they didn't had a solution to. So they started sharing this with their community, right? So we were part of the YC startup school, so a lot of YC founders started using it, right? And imagine this, what happened is, there's a concept called networks effect, right? Which companies like referral through referrals and wasting millions of dollars try to do that. This happened for us organically. So once the founders started using it, they shared it with their employees, right? So all the employees started using it without us going to tell them to use it, right? Because their founder was using it. And once they use it, the founders use it, when they are talking to their customers, their other people like advisors, it spread. So everything happened through word of mouth, right? Which is, by the way, one of the best organic and most successful ways of spreading
Yeah,
your company, right? Organically. And yeah, I mean, we this was again a very very good thing for us, because we got customers from all across the world. So there is no continent where we people don't use Poppins, right?
that's wonderful.
And yeah, and the best thing which happened among this all this while was we were very close to our users, right? Because we started Poppins for our own problem, but what we found was people started using it in many different ways, right? In their own to solve their own problems in their own ways. So there were like more than 5 different use cases, right? And once we started talking to these people, we discovered more and more uses of these, right? So, and what we did was we onboarded every user personally. So till day,
Okay.
me and my co-founder type the email and send it through her personal account, right? So we don't do any automation there. So it takes a lot of time. It sounds boring, but we do that because it means a lot for us and for our users as well, right? Because when it is coming from someone like a founder and they want to personally onboard you on a call, it it just brings the customer to you very closely, right? So they've built relationships which are like, even if their entire team is switching from tools, different tools, they have used Poppins, right? So many of our customers have switched from Asana or Trello, like these well established billion-dollar companies, right, to Poppins, something which we never thought of, right? But they did this because of all our, like, we were very close to them. So people were talking to us on Slack. We have a Slack community as well. People were talking to us on email, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. I mean, wherever we could found our users, we went there and we told them, you don't have to change the platform. We will hear your thoughts, suggestions, feedback here itself.
That's really wonderful because
Yeah,
so nobody, especially a lot of people in our audience as well, is very excited
yeah,
to see how it looks like. So if you ever
sure.
hear from Mayank or Poppins, so it's not a bot who's talking to you; it's
Yeah,
actually one of them.
right. I have a presentation, actually, a
Yeah,
short
sure.
presentation. I'll try to share it. Is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, one second. Think I'll have to share the entire screen. Okay. Is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah. So our tagline is make Slack actionable. By this, what we mean is there are a bunch of messages, right? And you, because everything is happening online, you're talking about everything on Slack, right? All kind of things. So in your messages, you'll have a lot of memes or other things which are good because of culture, and you have to do this because we are all humans, right? But they may not be mission critical for your company or for you, right? So assume that there are 100 messages on Slack and you have to go through each of them, but there is only one or two message which your boss or manager sends, which you have to act on immediately, right? So you'll waste a lot of time. You may not even find that message because of these other not so important messages, right? So what Poppins does is it identifies those messages. Right now we are doing it manually, but we will be using AI and other learning models to do that, automate that, right, in the future. So what it does is it identifies these few important messages, and it shows you only those messages, right? So that you don't waste time going through every message, and you can act upon these messages. And everything happens on Slack. So you're identifying these messages, and then you're taking further actions on top of these. I'll walk you through a short demo of Poppins, how it is done. Right. So this was a short introduction of me. And why is it important right now is very important, because Slack has been there for a long time, but due to COVID, the amount of messages have exploded. So even if you look at the 2019 stats, there were like more than 1.5 billion messages which were sent on Slack weekly, right? So that's a lot of information to process, right? And current solutions are too expensive, so people are wasting around 40% of their productivity doing back and forth. They're spending 90 minutes of time searching through Slack messages, replying to them, and that in turns turns into like around 40% operational margin, right? So that's a huge loss in terms of how your company operates, right? What we did here was, like, you can see, and this is all organic. People have been talking about Poppins on different platforms, and most of our users were founders. So this is where it sparked the conversation. So all the way from maybe a 2 to 4 people company, to all the way from these very large enterprises like Byju's, Hilton, I mean, you name it, On Deck, all these companies, all the unicorns in India, most of them, Cred, Katabook, you name it, Poppins would be used there, right? So this has been one of our core things to focus on the user. So now let's go into the demo. But before that, I'll pause and ask if you have any questions. If anyone has any questions,
Yeah, if
I'll
you
be
have
happy to
any
answer.
questions, put it in the general chat or the Q&A section, and
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
also actually
I'm
Mayank,
not. Yeah,
a
yeah. Sorry.
couple of people have actually written that they wanted to see a demo as well. So
Hmm.
it's great that
Awesome.
we'll be showing a
Yeah,
demo as well.
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and I won't be able to check the chat for a while demoing. So please let me know, right, if
Yeah,
you have any
yeah.
questions.
I'll keep a eye on the chat and the Q&A.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'll walk you through the entire. You were saying something.
Yeah, we can go ahead with the demo, and if people have
Okay.
questions, they'll post it in the channel.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So this is one of the test workspaces. Now I'll show you how to use Poppins from the very starting. Right. So this is our landing page. I've dropped the link in the chat, uh, but you may not find it. So if you can, if someone wants to open it, you can just type poppins.me, poppins.me. You'll find it. We recently launched on Product Hunt, and it was the second product of the day. So we got a lot of love there as well. And Poppins was like within 1 week of our launch on the Slack app store, we got featured as the number one new and noteworthy app on productivity. So that was a huge bump for us, right? Because we got a lot of love because Slack featured us on top of the new and noteworthy apps. and soon they featured us as the number one brilliant bot as well for productivity. So these two events were very, very auspicious for us. And recently, till last week, we were featured along with Loom. So Loom is a popular, it is a billion-dollar company,
Yeah.
which was which shares videos, right? So we were featured along with Loom. Only two companies were there, Poppins and for communication. So this is a old stat. We have now many, many more companies. So you can check. And if you have any questions even after the workshop, you can contact me on LinkedIn or on Twitter, email, anywhere. Right. So let's go to Slack. You can find Poppins directly on the Slack App Store as well. So if you go to Slack app directory, you can find Poppins app here. Okay. So once you install the app, you will get a notification from Poppins, right? And you can go to. So this is the onboarding message which you get once you install it, and there will be all kind of details. So using Poppins is very simple. This is also one of the reasons why people love Poppins, because if you have used Slack, you will be able to use Poppins. So there is no learning curve, right? So the first step of using Poppins is to capture the message. So let's take one channel where we will do a bunch of things to see what Poppins can do. So the first step is to capture that important message, and you can capture any message. So there are multiple ways of capturing message as well. So the first and the use shortcuts of Slack. So you can point on any Slack message and you will find these options from Poppins, right? But however, you this may not be visible in the first attempt because you have never used Poppins. So just go here and type Poppins and you will see these options, right? I'll show you once more. So if you go here, you can search for more message shortcuts. Right now I'm using, so I can find it here itself. Once you click on that, you will see this pop up where you can find you so people are using it for their personal to do list as well, Poppins, as well as for the entire team and for the entire company. So there are multiple use cases. So you can always choose an item to be private just for yourself, right? Or it could be for the entire channel. So if you're choosing for the entire channel, other team members save a lot of time, because if they don't have to come and tag this individually, right? So in this case I'm choosing this. The other beneficial thing here is using the tag features. This is a very simple way of filtering and curation. So here I can say that this is a Slack event, and you people are even naming customers and users as well, right? So let's say I'm not going through all the features. You can play around with it, and if you have any questions after this, you can ask. So now it has been captured. So if you look at it, it just takes a few seconds. I took longer because I was talking as well. So this only takes this while. Now if you, the second step is, if once you've captured it, now you want to take action on it, right, on messages. So if you're aware of Slack, how Slack works, everything on Slack has a command which is slash next to your shift button. So if you type slash poppins here on shortcuts, you will see by default, you will see all these shortcuts, and every description is written here, right?
Yeah.
If you start typing.
So, yeah,
Mhm.
Cam, that would also answer like your question. Cam had a question about the demo that can you please describe how the pop-up action item comes up on screen? Like how do you launch pop-in? So if you
Okay.
could show that once again.
Yeah. Okay. So there are multiple ways to launch pop-ins. One of the ways is this, to type slash command. So if you are like coming from a technical background, this will be very easy for you, right? But if you're not from a technical background, or if you want to have a different way, there are other ways as well. So one of the ways to access everything is Poppins Control Center. So you can type this Poppins Control Center and you will see this UI. Now Slack has restrictions on how you can build app. So this is why it has basic UI. You won't see right now because Slack itself has given these restrictions, right? So all these features come up like a button here. You don't have to type commands. The other way of accessing Slack is Poppins is, you can find Poppins here. You can search Poppins on your apps, right? So it will appear here, right? What I'll advise or suggest is you can mark it as starred, right? So that it is on the top. So again, you don't waste time searching it, right? And this is your home tab. So everything, all the items anywhere on Poppins, you don't have to go anywhere else. You can just come here and can search from tags. You can do a bunch of things. And this is your message. So if you want to store something private for a personal to do or task, you can use messages as well, right? But the best way of using Poppins is to add it to a channel. Suppose you are in a marketing team or a support team, sales team, right? I'm giving examples. You can add to that team, and whenever you want to mention Poppins or tag an item on Poppins, one way was to use these shortcuts. The other way is you can do something like this. So the way you mention people on any platform, it could be LinkedIn, it could be Facebook, right? It could be Slack. You can mention Poppins as well, right? Right. So even if this is not in the channel, it will get invited. Slack will ask me to add Poppins here, right? So let's see how this works. This happens for the first time only. Invite, and automatically it gets it. Two things happened. It got invited, and the other thing which happened was the this message became a highlight, right? So by default, every message you clip on Poppins becomes a highlight. But there are other steps if you want to have it as an action item. So let's do that. So ACT/ACT stands for action item. So there are three buckets. So any message could be a highlight or it could be a discussion topic. So let's say you want to discuss something with your colleague. So you will mention hashtag discuss, right? Or it has become like an action item, which let's say you have given, you are my manager and you have given me something to work on, it becomes an action item. So it automatically becomes like a action item, so it goes there. I'll just show you how that works. So this has become an action item, right? Now there are more advanced features which right now I'll not go through. What I'll do is I'll show you how Poppins, right? And you can open it anywhere on Slack. Just remember slash Poppins, right? So you will see this UI digest. So there are a couple of things. The first thing is my digest. So my digest is, it will contain everything you have tagged on Slack, right? So even your private channels, right? Private chats or private channels, it will have everything. So you don't have to go anywhere. So the channel digest will only have your all the items which you tagged on a particular channel. So let's say I am part of the marketing team. Whatever I tag in the marketing team, I can access them here, right? Similarly for the entire workspace, and there is a feature for multiple workspaces which I explained earlier. So now let's go to channel digest, and there is a dunce report will I'll come to later, right? Yeah. So if you remember, I showed you two ways of clipping items. One was shortcuts. This was with the shortcuts, right, where I used the slash commands, and this was the message which I composed. So there are two messages, two ways. This, the first way was you can capture any message. The second way is if you are composing, if you are writing the message, you can mention at the rate poppins, right? Now once you have captured, so now you can check the how the digest looks like. So the first thing is action items. It tells you the total number of action items, discussion items, and highlights. So by default everything comes here. See, this message came here, right? And you see the timestamp, so you can see when the message was typed. The other good thing here is there are 500 or 1000 messages, right? And if you want to find that specific message, let's say 2 months back, it could be on July 1st, right? You may not be able to scroll all the way through, right? And you may never find that message. What Poppins does is you can click on details, and it takes you to that specific message wherever it is, right? It could be anywhere, 4 months back, 4 years back. If you have clipped that message on Poppins, you can immediately find it, right? So this saves a lot of time. Now the tag features is very helpful if, let's say, I want to look at the Slack event. So I don't have to even look at all the messages. I can search it from here and it shows me exactly that message, right? And all the other details. So this hashtag has been highlighted, right? So this was the brief about the digest. Now we can go deeper into it, right? Like
Um, Mayank,
yeah.
also just
Mhm.
giving a check on the time because we also have some questions.
Okay,
So,
awesome. I'll wrap it up quickly. Yeah. So because of the time, I'll quickly wrap it up, but feel free to play around with it and ask me any questions even after the session, right? I'll be available on wherever you are, right? On, I'll drop my email as well. I'll drop my social channels on the chat after this, after the demo, right? But coming back to the demo, so once you've captured, now you can do a bunch of things. So is this concept was actually found by Slack itself, which is called no ask updates, where you, because a lot of things are happening async, so you don't have to waste time asking your team members about the updates about anything, right? So it is like a buffet where everything is updated async, right? So if you mark a message as action item as in progress, everybody in the team would know that this action item has been taken up by this person and it is being worked on. The second thing which you can do is, and every time you will be notified, so the person who has assigned will be notified by Poppins. The second thing is you can mark a message as done, and it goes away from here, right? So now this is a step further. So now it has gone to a different report, which is called the dunce report, and it has week by week things. So now this week has today's item, right? And it has been done. So this is very helpful when teams are having their all hands meeting or weekly updates, right? You don't have to waste time finding what all work you did, who assigned it, when did you get the action, and when did you complete it. Everything comes here automatically week by week, right? So it shows you all the kind of items which were done by the people. So this becomes very helpful for product managers who are looking at the or your immediate manager for one-on-ones, right? So this is the entire pipeline in short. There are a bunch of other nuances which I'm not going into, right? Like uh, you can mention people directly with pop-ins, and the first person becomes the owner, other people become the collaborators. Everybody is notified by pop-ins, right? And whenever they are taking any actions or updating, they get notified as well. And pop-ins automatically updates this message on Slack for you, right? So you don't even have to open pop-ins. You can just come here and see this has been done by, right? So I'll stop sharing and happy to have questions.
Yeah, so we answered Cam's question during the demo itself. The other question is from Revati. It's about how does Poppins help in with the security. I'll read out
Mhm.
her question as it is as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
So does Poppins store the company messages and then analyzes the important messages? Like, in other
mhm.
words, how secure is the company's data after using
Right,
Poppins?
right. So it's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Because this was one of the primary concerns, right? Because people there are actually some security companies who are using pop-ins as well, and we actually face challenges because of this, because we encrypted everything uh, on rest and as well as while the data travels. So we don't store any information about the message, and even we don't have any information about the user who is capturing this item. So everything is encrypted, right? And if you, I mean, if you have this, if you are concerned about it, I can share how we store it in detail right after this session. uh, but we found it very hard when we were trying to onboard our users because we couldn't find our users, right? Even their email IDs were not visible because we encrypted everything. And this is one of the reasons why we don't have automations. You have to manually tag pop-ins because we don't want to hear everything you are talking in a channel, right? We don't want people to have trust issues that they think that Poppins is in this channel and you will be listening. So first thing is everything is encrypted, fully encrypted end to end, right? We don't even know about your name, forget about the message what is written there. The second thing is this is a bit of work for the users because of this security concern. We have not automated it, right? We will do it once we figure out how to do it without concerning the security, right? But because of manual step, people are capturing these items, right, themselves. And yeah, so in short, you don't have to worry about this. Yeah.
That's really great, yeah. And a lot of the questions I think that people might have had earlier before the session were answered during the conversation, and everything about pop-ins and how you switched to like Slack and then thought about improving the productivity on more, and
Mhm.
then
Yeah,
introducing an internal tool which actually turned out to be the main product you're working
yeah,
on. So that's really wonderful. Um, we are actually up time.
yeah,
So as Mike, you can share in your socials or like a
yeah,
way
yeah,
if people
sure,
want to
sure.
contact. And I'll also stop the recording. We'll not end the session here, but I'll just stop the recording.